I don't even know if he's given the reason why he's out, but so I won't go too deep in there. But I'm Chris Spags, joined by my pals here on the Deeper Dive, the top DFS player in the world, a man who has kept the lights on for us in a million different ways here at Osmo.com. Osmo, Alex Baker. If you want to be one of his friends, you can call him that. How are you doing, Alex?
I'm doing good, man. It's been a while since we've done a show together, but I promise to be particularly ordinary today because I know you like that kind of conflict-oriented show.
Sure. I like to get in a scrap here whenever we have a live stream to go. If you could throw fists through our screens together while debating the finer points of Brendan Mckay today, I'm sure we'll be doing it. And of course, also another genius man I'm excited to be on the show with again. Shit My Money, Adam Scher. How are you doing, Adam?
Doing good. Looking forward to doing a show with you guys. You and I did our first show together last week or the week before and had a good time. So looking forward to another one.
Yes. So let's get back on track with the most important thing here, thanking our sponsors, of course, the fine folks at Yahoo who help us keep the Deeper Dive going every day. Go check them out right now. If you go to the homepage, the Spotlight Hitters and Stacks article that EMAC has put up is the best way to get in there. And also take advantage of the free points that they're giving you guys for signing up. Get $30 of free play on Yahoo with the promo code AWESEMO right now. Of course, that is one of the better sites out there. They limit a lot of the entries, so a lot more chances for you to win and be good at winning tournaments, which is really the most important part of DFS, I'm told. Alex, what is the benefit of going to Yahoo today for a lot of the folks out there?
I think, first of all, I mean, if you can get in early enough, they have the rake-free tournaments, and also their management fees are lower than other sites. But one of my favorite features of Yahoo is that I love it for cash games because you can block all the sharks from joining your head-to-heads, and then anyone who joins is likely to not be as good as you. And then that's a recipe for making money for sure.
Yeah, and of course, we do have a ton of content for Yahoo. We'll be talking about Yahoo throughout the course of this hour, and we thank them for sponsoring the show. But go right now to Osmo.com and check out EMAC's article to find a way to sign up there. Use that promo code Osmo for your first $30 free with a deposit there on Yahoo. All right, let's go game by game here. As always, of course, the Deeper Dive is meant to do. Let's start it off with a battle of the juggernauts here based on their team totals today, with Kansas City going into Baltimore. Kansas City getting 4.8 implied runs going against John Means. Baltimore getting 5.7 going against the illustrious Jorge Lopez. He's getting battered on the year, giving up one of the higher barreled ball rates on the slate. And their team total here exceedingly high. So the pitchers, let's talk about them up front here. Alex, how are you feeling about John Means and Lopez? Are you going to have any interest in either of these guys today?
Yeah, I think as you put it, I mean, these are not the pitchers of the slate by any means. I see what I did there. But anyway, I think that Jorge Lopez might be a deep flyer on DraftKings at 4,800. That's about where I think he should be priced because, I mean, he's going to get some strikeouts. The matchup is minus though for getting strikeouts. The reason why you might go for Lopez is because there's one really obvious pitching play that's cheap. And if you're building a lineup where you're fading that guy, Brendan Mckay, then I think that maybe you go for Bauer at the high price point and you pair him with a guy like Lopez at your low price. And that's how you can fit in some good bets.
All right. How about you? How are you feeling here, Adam? Because we do have a guy in Jorge Lopez who is cheap and is at the same price point as another guy in Zack Davies who we'll hit on, who is going to actually have some ownership on him today. How are you feeling about Lopez and I guess to a lesser extent, John Means?
Yeah, I'm actually more interested in Means than I am in Lopez. Both just purely DraftKings plays. I think that the pitching pricing on Yahoo is soft enough that you don't need to go there. And on FanDuel with one pitcher, obviously you don't need to. But right now we don't have a lot of ownership going to John Means. I was just refreshing it. But on DraftKings, we have him at 8%. And there is a favorable pitcher's umpire in Baltimore. Kansas City doesn't have the best lineup. You know, they have some decent hitters in Merrifield, Dozier, Soler, Cuthbert, but you know, you get beyond that and it gets pretty weak. John Means, not a great strikeout pitcher, but he is pretty decent at limiting production, has a really good changeup that keeps guys off balance, and cheap pitching on DraftKings is just really tough to get to, so or to come by. That you're going to feel confident in. So I kind of like getting to a lower owned Means here. As far as Lopez, not fully stretched out and not facing a terrible Baltimore lineup. Like it's not the best lineup, but you know, VR, Mancini, Santander, Nunez, none of those guys are easy outs. Anzer Alberto puts the ball in play. DJ Stewart is also a pretty decent hitter. So I think it's one of the better lineups that Baltimore can run out there. They have a 5.6 implied run total. So I'm mostly on the Baltimore side of things here.
All right, so yeah, let's talk about that hitting then, because Baltimore is going to be pretty decently owned. I just put in our ownership update that we have right now at Osmo.com. And if you want to get that data as well, go to Osmo.com/join. Use the promo code Deeper Dive for half off your first month of Osmo Plus. Looks like there's going to be a ton of ownership for VR, a ton of ownership for Renato Nunez, and some less ownership for Mancini and Santander in there. But looks like there'll be some 2-man stacks, at least possibly 4 to 5-man stacks. Also, not too much ownership on Kansas City besides Whit Merrifield. So, Alex, how are you feeling about the hitting here? Are you going to be matching the field on Baltimore in this high team total of theirs?
I mean, you got to think this is one of the best spots that the Orioles will face in Camden Yards all year. Going up against Jorge Lopez, they have a team total of almost 6, as Adam said. One of their better lineups of the year. Have them about average in power and getting on base. So, I mean, like, really good for them. But the pricing, Chris, as you said, is really good on DraftKings and FanDuel in particular. And I can see why people might end up with a lot of Orioles stacks. But I think that might drive me in some other directions because they might be a little bit too popular given that they're Baltimore Orioles and we kind of know what to expect.
Are you willing to pay it all for Kansas City? I guess let's talk to Adam about this one because these are really high prices on DK for these Kansas City hitters who have a lot of power. They are getting a pretty big park upgrade and also a bad Baltimore bullpen behind Means. So even if your boy Means does go off, our boy Means, I don't want to just totally put him on you. I enjoy John Means, but that bullpen's terrible too. So would you be willing to pay it all for Dozier and Soler at over 5K?
Yeah, so first, just to echo what Alex said, in my initial DraftKings crunch, I didn't get to a lot of Orioles either, just because they are projected for high ownership, like you guys were saying. If that were to change, then I think it's a good spot. For Kansas City, it's really interesting with the pricing on DraftKings because even though I have respect for Means, I still have Whit Merrifield as my highest projected second baseman. I have Hunter Dozier as my highest projected third baseman, and I have Jorge Soler as a top projected outfielder, but they're just so expensive that it's really, really difficult for me to get there. It is a high upside spot because of the ballpark and the bullpen, as you mentioned, but it's just, really tough for me to get to Kansas City. So I didn't get to a whole lot, which is another reason I think why on DraftKings I'm getting so much John Means. It's that I'm not prioritizing the Kansas City bats anyway. So why not take a chance on the cheap pitcher going against them?
That makes sense. And Alex, I guess to close it out here, would you be willing to pay those prices for Dozier and Soler at all, given that they're not going to be too highly owned? A little bit of a pay up to be contrarian spot, perhaps?
Man, it's so tough to pay those prices versus All-Star John Means. But I mean, like I like it on DraftKings, where maybe the best players on the team aren't going with very much ownership. On Yahoo though, 27 for Soler, you're foregoing Mike Trout at that price. So I think I know which way I'd go there.
A tough call as always between Jorge Soler and Mike Trout, but yeah, chalk Trout though is a thing which we'll hit on throughout the course of this hour, and that is one which I'm curious to get your thoughts on because there is a point perhaps where Mike Trout is maybe too owned to want to be there, but we'll find out. Let's move on to the next game here. We got Washington heading into Pittsburgh. Washington getting 5.1 implied runs going against Trevor Williams. It's pretty reasonably priced and actually going to have some ownership on him. It looks like Pittsburgh on the other side going against Joe Ross, who's been resurgent in his last 3 starts, but against kind of weak competition. He was one of the guys I was actually very impressed when our own Josh Engelman was very team Joe Ross recently, and he did have another nice day. People seem to be also talking about the Joe Ross hype. Adam, is there anything here with Joe Ross you've noticed where perhaps he's changed things, or has he just had a couple lucky 3 starts?
I think it's just a small sample size thing. He's still not striking lefties out. Even in the small sample size this year, he's allowed a 4.11 WOBA with a 15% strikeout percentage. So it doesn't appear that he's done anything to alleviate what's been his biggest issue throughout his career. And then now you're facing this Pirates team that doesn't have a lot of strikeouts, does have a lot of lefties, 5 in the top 6. And some of those lefties are good. Frazier, Reynolds, Bell, Moran, all pretty decent hitters. In Bell's case, really, really good. Melky Cabrera just never strikes out. So I think it's a really tough spot for Joe Ross. PNC also has been a top 10 park for runs this year. Everyone writes it off as a pitcher's park, but especially this time of year, it actually plays pretty well. So not great for home runs, middle of the pack there, but it doesn't do a lot to suppress runs either. And it's just not a great pitcher in Ross. So I'm not getting there.
Yeah, and then as you mentioned, it's going to be almost 90 degrees there in Pittsburgh today, and that park, one of the better ones in terms of overall run production on the year. That's come down a bit over the recent, I guess, like the last month or so. But yeah, it is a very hot day there. Alex, how are you feeling about Joe Ross and I guess also Trevor Williams, who's pretty reasonably priced and could theoretically be leveraged on a Washington Stack, whose ownership has come down a bit, it seems, throughout the course of the day?
Yeah, I think Ross is a cheap pitcher, except he's not cheap. so I probably won't be on him given the matchup. But Trevor Williams seems more playable, at least on DraftKings, because he's cheaper pitcher. He's home. Uh, his strikeout number 18% should be about what you expect today versus this Washington team. And I especially like the fact that Joe Ross has a high strikeout rate of 56%. And being the home pitcher, he's likely to face Ross probably twice. So that's a nice bump for Trevor Williams.
Oh, there you go. That was one of the points that you mentioned recently that Jake actually brought up on a Live Before Lock show, that the bottom of the order, pitcher strikeouts. If you have a guy who has good strikeouts, as you mentioned, a 57% K rate for Joe Ross on the year, limited sample size, but going against righties. And it's probably not going to get much better for him, one would assume. But might get better for the Washington Hitters, Alex, because these are guys who are hitting really well on the year. I got a bunch of hitters over a 100 WRC plus besides Yan Gomes and Victor Robles in that lineup. Are you going to be getting any Washington stacks today? Because the ownership is pretty reasonable, and the top stack tool has them have a decent chance to be the top stack today.
Yeah, I think if anyone else out there is like me, you're having a ton of FOMO because like Washington just killed it like the past couple of days, and I didn't have any of them. I'm looking to correct that today when maybe the field is going the opposite direction because their ownership is low as their prices have risen because of their good production. But I still think they're not so high that they're a terrible value. And tonight we have really good value at pitcher, so I think that it's pretty easy to fit in a Washington stack, and I like it.
Adam, how are you feeling about the Washington Hitters here?
Yeah, I'm getting to Washington stacks too for a couple of reasons. For one, Trevor Williams just not a particularly good pitcher. He's a reasonable play on DraftKings just because of what they did with their pitcher pricing today. But it's not like you expect him to go out there and really shut down what is a pretty dangerous Washington lineup. And on top of that, he'll get some ownership because of how the slate is. So it works as a leverage stack as well. You have four lefties in the top six with Eaton, Soto, Cabrera, and Adams. Soto is a phenomenal hitter. Adams has power. Turner, Rendon, Cabrera, they're all tough strikeouts with the exception of the bottom of the order here from Adams down through Ross. But 1 through 5, tough strikeouts. So I think it's a pretty good stack. The favorable hitting weather, obviously the same as we talked about with Pittsburgh. And in the top stack tool right now, we have them being pretty significantly under-owned. So I am getting into a lot of Washington.
All right, and Alex, I guess to close the loop on this game here, the Pittsburgh Hitters, any interest at all for you? Because I know they are a common anti-optimizer call for you. And it is a decent spot here against Ross if he does regress to what we've seen from him in a longer sample size. So would you have any interest in these Pittsburgh Hitters on a hot Pittsburgh day?
Yeah, I think their lineup's not terrible. Like there are 7 out of 9 spots with a pretty good ability to get on base. Really good batting average for the team. I have them at about 27.5% batting average compared to 24.4% league average. The one area that we're lagging behind a little bit is power, a little bit less than average. But if they keep getting hits, maybe they put together a winning performance. I'm not like super keen on it. I think if I had them on any site, it would probably be FanDuel, where their ownership is a little bit lower. And on DraftKings, I think, and Yahoo, if you fade Adam Frazier leading off, maybe you can get the stack at a much lower ownership rate. So like that.
All right, so let's covering that game pretty well. And guys, right now, please hit that like button. Today is one of the streams. We'll be sharing our stream today with the Live Before Lock show. So get your like button in there now. Show the support early. You won't be a bandwagoner like all the people getting on there later on in the show. So hit that thumbs up for us, please. Because the deeper dive, we deserve it so much today. These two brilliant men across from me. Let's get on to the next game, though. We got San Diego heading to a matchup against Cincinnati. San Diego getting 4 implied runs against Trevor Bauer, who looks like the chalk pitcher of the day industry-wide. Cincinnati on the other side getting 5 implied runs going against Eric Lauer, a guy who does limit power pretty well. He's also playing in San Diego, though, and that is going to be a pretty big park downgrade for him going to Cincinnati on another hot day as well. Pretty much every park today pretty hot, but also this park giving up a lot of power overall. So, Alex, how are you feeling about Trevor Bauer today as chalk, given that he is going to be pretty much the chalk option everywhere? He's also shown some ability to get hit pretty hard, a 9% barrel ball rate on the year, and he has struggled with home run power as well.
Yeah, I think sorry, I got distracted for a second. Which game are we on?
Bauer and his status.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right, I just didn't want to go off in a huge tangent here. I think Bauer is certainly like the best talent on today's slate. 28% Ks on the year, which is considerably above average. He's facing a team with a lot of talent, but like younger guys. I have them striking out a little bit more than average, and I like the fact that Bauer's at home. The fact that he moved from AL to NL means that maybe you could get more strikeouts out of him because he's facing the pitcher spot on a more regular basis. So I think he's got some really good potential tonight. Definitely not a lock given the super high prices, but I'll have him a lot.
All right, how are you feeling about Bauer here, Adam? Because it is a very high ownership situation here where I could see you wanting to get some leverage maybe with San Diego a little bit here, but how are you feeling about Bauer overall as chalk?
I think it's pretty site dependent. He's $47 on Yahoo. Clearly a really good play there. 10-2 on FanDuel is fine as well if you can fit, bats in. You do have a few mid-range pitchers that we'll talk about that are in good spots too. It's really difficult for me in tournaments on DraftKings though. He's 11,700, which isn't bad, but it kind of just forces you on to really similar roster constructions as a lot of the field. So right now we have him projected at 30% ownership on DraftKings. In my first crunch, I got about 11 or 12% on DraftKings. So I don't think I'll end up getting to the field. One thing to point out with San Diego too is that they have a watered down lineup today in terms of production, and that's going to be the case going forward because Fernando Tatis is on the injured list for the rest of the year. But it's also not a high strikeout lineup. Greg Garcia is around 20%. Josh Naylor is a little over 20. Machado is a little below 20. Hosmer is a little over 20. Then you start to get to strikeouts with Renfroe, Mejia, Myers, and the pitcher. Luis Urias is down around 20% as well. But it's a little bit weaker a little bit lower strikeout lineup than San Diego's had for much of the year because they had Franmil Reyes and Tatis for so long. So that's, kind of one minor knock against Bauer. You also have 3 lefties in the top 4 and 4 in the top 6, which when he has struggled this year, it's been with left-handed hitters. So those are a couple of reasons it's not a perfect spot for Bauer, that in addition to it being a really good hitter's park. But I do think he's the highest projected pitcher on the slate. It's just a matter of, can you afford his salary and can you make different lineups with him in it? So I think it's going to be easier to do that on Yahoo and FanDuel than it will on DraftKings.
It makes sense to me. And Adam, I guess while we're talking pitching here, any interest in the rhyming name across from him with Eric Lauer, given that there is going to be some ownership on Cincinnati, their popularity is coming up throughout the day. And Lauer is cheap. Well, I guess actually, no, he's not that cheap. He's not cheap on DraftKings and not cheap on Yahoo. So never mind. He's not cheap. You're going to get to Eric Lauer at all.
It looks like I'm probably coming in right around the field on DraftKings. We have him projected for 4% ownership. I have 3% right now. It's just not a spot that I'm interested in. No Nick Senzel for the Reds. He scratched, so the lineup gets a little bit weaker, but still not a high strikeout lineup. Some dangerous bats in there with Suarez and Aquino. So if he were cheaper, then sure, but I'm not interested in paying $8K for him.
Alex, just confirm our relative lack of interest in Eric Lauer.
Oh yeah, I'll confirm it. I mean, he's just not even that cheap on DraftKings, and then on 2-pitcher side or 1-pitcher side, there's so many other options that are better.
It seems fair to me. How about the Cincinnati Hitters here? Because they are a team who, again, hitting at home, it is a warm day in Cincinnati in a park, which is one of the better hitting parks on the slate. And going against a guy in Lauer who is pitching most of the time in San Diego, I mean, even though there have been some power production for the Padres this year, this is generally going to be a better pitching park. And Lauer, really not a high fly ball rate, but not a terribly low one either, a 35% fly ball rate, not a terribly high, not a terribly low batted ball rate at 6%. Are you going to get to any Cincinnati hitters, Alex?
Man, Chris, you're just leading me in all the right directions here. I think that the fact that Senzel was scratched and now Philip Ervin is leading off is huge because he's super underpriced on every site. I have him projected at almost 10 points on Yahoo and DraftKings, and he's really cheap. So I think that he'd be a cash game play for sure on FanDuel as well, 2,500. I think that that's making me a little concerned about this in our next ownership run, though, because I'm seeing 4 to 5 batters on each site that are super low priced, and I think that's going to really drive ownership to Cincinnati Stack. And as a team, they're not projected to be one of the best teams of the night. So I think I might end up having less in the field here.
Yeah, and you get your 5K Aquino in there too at 3% ownership, which seems like it'll be able to differentiate a stack there. I'm assuming the ownership on Irvin does go up at 3,800 in the leadoff spot on DK. But Adam, how are you feeling about the Cincinnati Stack as well, getting 5 implied runs for him?
Same spot as Alex. I haven't recrunched since Senzel was scratched, but I wasn't getting to a lot of them before. I think that they're good values. It's a good park. It's a mediocre pitcher in Lauer. Doesn't give up a ton of power to righties. Strikes out 22%. But, looking at Iglesias, now Phillip Ervin, Jose Peraza, all really, really cheap options in good spots in the order that stand out as good values, but maybe not the highest upside plays. So where I do get to Cincinnati, I want to prioritize Suarez and Aquino because, Aquino's expensive and Suarez is pretty expensive too. They're the two most dangerous hitters in the lineup. They have the most power. So I do want to make sure those guys are in stacks if I go there. And also I think that they're interesting one-offs because it gives you exposure to this really good hitting situation, but with guys that aren't going to be used as filler by a lot of competing lineups.
Makes sense. So yeah, I think I'm with you on that one as well. And I guess Alex, to close the loop on this game real fast, are you going to have any San Diego bats as leverage going against Bauer, given some of those power struggles that we talked about?
I have some interest. I think it's site specific on Yahoo. They're all like super, super cheap. On DraftKings, Manny Machado is just really underpriced at 3,800, and on FanDuel, Greg Garcia is 2K leading off. So I think I might be interested in some one-offs in this game, but since the stack overall doesn't have a ton of potential and one of the worst spots of the night, I'm not probably going to have a ton of them.
That makes sense. All right, let's keep it moving here. On to Seattle, going into Tampa Bay. Seattle getting 3.3 implied runs going against Brendan McKay. We very, very, very chalky on DraftKings, it looks like, but much less chalky everywhere else where the price is not quite as appealing. Tampa Bay on the other side going against Marco Gonzalez, so Adam, how does this make you feel that Marco Gonzalez is priced over 10K and the genius, the savant, Sonny Gray has not hit that threshold? Adam, give us some thoughts.
Yeah, it didn't make me very happy that Gray wasn't pitching today. It would have been a really good slate for him to go. Pretty insane for Gonzalez to be 10.6K. I think that Jake and I talked about it this morning. I'm sure we're talking him into like a complete game shutout, but I think he's the least appealing pitcher on the entire slate from here on DraftKings. It's a good park, but a 17.7% strikeout percentage, just not even getting anywhere close. He'd basically have to have the best game of his career to pay off that price tag. So I'm not getting there. I'm, of course, much more interested in Brendan McKay.
Alex, do you share the non-love for Marco Gonzalez at, again, an over 10K price tag on DK, which will not stop being hilarious to me until we finish the show?
Yeah, I mean, there's a old saying, I think maybe from Tropic Thunder or something, never go full contrarian.
That's a good way to clean that up. Yahoo will be very happy with that choice of quote.
Yeah, so I think at 10.6, I'll leave it to someone else to try that out.
All right, let's talk about the Brendan McKay situation. Yeti DFS right now, or Yeti Express DFS, one of our regulars here on the show, is talking in the YouTube chat saying he would have 100% McKay. It seems like the people of DraftKings, the fine citizens of DraftKings, are going to be going that way too, with over 50% projected ownership for him right now. So Alex, at that much ownership, even though he is a nice discount, he's also got a really good strikeout rate on the year so far with 27% K rate. He is a top prospect getting a really low implied run total against him. The Seattle team does have power, even though they strike out a good amount versus lefties on the year. They have almost a 200 ISO. This lineup too also has some good power hitters in there at reasonable prices. So how are you feeling about Brendan McKay as being the super chalk, Alex?
I feel good about it. I think that his strikeout percentage is above average. So far in the majors, he's been at 27%. Based on the minors this year, I'm expecting it to be a little bit lower than that on average, but still, you're talking about a guy who should probably be 8 to 9K at least, and he's got a good matchup as well. I mean, Seattle has one of the lower run totals of the night. They have an above-average strikeout rate with two guys that have strike out a ton, and Tom Murphy and Keon Broxton, both close to 40%. So I think he can rack up some Ks tonight, and the price, you got to love it.
Adam, do you agree with the Brendan McKay take here and the fact that he is going to be over 50% owned on DK?
Yeah, I have about 94% on DraftKings right now.
Okay.
So on FanDuel and Yahoo, he's a good play because it's a good matchup. It's a good park. He has the best K minus BB percentage on the slate. He has the best Sierra on the slate. His strikeout percentage is second best to Bauer. So he's a good play on those sites. But on DraftKings, the reason why I'm leaning towards just having him in pretty much every lineup as opposed to being a 55% owned pitcher is that when you're being contrarian, you don't want to sacrifice upside in your lineup. You want to have, similarly projected players that you can just get at lower ownership. And because of what DraftKings did with their pitcher pricing, they just jacked up the price on every reasonable pitcher on the slate, with the exception of Mckay. So to get to a similarly projected pitcher, you have to pay an extra couple $1,000s, or you go cheaper and get a guy that doesn't project nearly the same. So I would rather just have Mckay basically everywhere. If he pitches poorly, he pitches poorly. But, he's been really good since coming up. He's a top prospect. He's underpriced, especially relative to the slate. So it's a spot where I think that the edge is more so in just having him almost everywhere, as opposed to looking to fade at 55% owned.
Yeah, and in terms of the raw points that Alex has in his projections today, which you get, of course, with the Osmo Plus membership, but you get right now at osmo.com/join with the promo code Deeper Dive for half off your first month. In terms of raw points, Mckay is not very far behind Trevor Bauer in terms of the projections, and that is a 4K price difference on DK as well. So yeah, I think I'm with you on it. You guys did sell me on this one because 54% ownership does jump out as being a lot, but it does seem like he does check all the boxes here for a guy who is going to be owned at that much ownership. Alex, how about the hitters here? Because even if we are going to have Mckay at 54%, we can still go the other way a little bit here. And you have a bunch of Seattle hitters who've been hitting well in somewhat limited sample sizes. Tim Lopez has been hitting well against lefties. Austin Nola as well. These guys were also really cheap. Tom Murphy, even though as he does strike out as a really high rate, as Adam mentioned, he does also, I think it was Adam, somebody mentioned it, he still has a 319 ISO, though, going against lefties. So would you have any Seattle stacks going against Mckay, Alex?
Well, I do like the fact that it is such high leverage, given that most experienced players will have Mckay tonight, at least on DraftKings and Yahoo. I just don't think it's a good spot. Their team total is one of the lowest on the slate. I do like the ownership, but I don't recommend kind of going for those bottom tier teams just because they're facing a high-owned pitcher. That's not usually a strategy I implement.
All right, Adam, you're going to have 94% Brendan Mckay, so will you have 6% of the Seattle stacks going the other way?
I crunched 800 lineups before the show started. I got within Cruncher, I had 17 different stacks. Seattle was the one I did not get to. It's just, you can make the leverage argument. And if that's a strategy that you employ on a regular basis, then by all means, continue doing it. But for me, I factor that in, but not nearly heavily enough to get to the Seattle team. No Domingo Santana in the lineup either. So also missing one of the hitters that would actually be appealing. Really low implied run total. I think that I can leverage against some other pitchers that are popular and get my, leverage stacks in that way without getting to Seattle here.
That makes sense. These guys do not project well, by the way. I think to get them on an optimizer with the projections that we have at osmo.com, it seems like you'd have to get extra random with that because you have a bunch of guys projected under 6, under 5. I mean, it's not a good stack there in terms of projections.
I do a lot of different things to try and get exposure to as many stacks as I can within Fantasy Cruncher, and none of those things got me a single Seattle lineup.
Wow. Okay. So that is a tough cosign on Seattle. How about Tampa Bay here going against Marco, who's not going to have any ownership, but Tampa Bay reasonably priced given that they are going against the god Marco Gonzalez of the slate. Adam.
Some pretty affordable pricing. Tommy Pham leading off, Travis d'Arnaud hitting third. Aguilar is a really good value option. I still didn't get to a ton. I just think that it's a team where the guys that I would probably want the most, like Pham, d'Arnaud, and Aguilar, are probably the guys from this team that everyone's going to. So it just makes it so my Tampa stacks aren't really that contrarian, and I don't really value them that much. So, I have a few Tampa stacks, but nothing that I'm getting to a lot.
Alex, do you feel any differently about Tampa Bay?
I like them on one side, man. Tampa Bay is a deep cut tonight. I think a lot of times when you're listening to an album, it's like that number 8 track, number 9 track. It's not very good, but this time, team total of nearly 5 and ownership of 1% on FanDuel, that's a deep cut I'm interested in. And I'll try to make it work, even though it's not going to pop in an optimizer.
Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, on FanDuel, that could be one that jumps out a little bit more. Let's keep it moving here. Let's go on to Milwaukee heading into St. Louis for a matchup here between Dakota Hudson and Zack Davies. And this is also a game where the weather is going to be really hot in St. Louis, it looks like. So hopefully that'll balance out some of the things that'll favor pitchers here. So you're going to have a good amount of ownership here from Milwaukee again, who did it just the other day recently. I've actually been doing it pretty well overall recently. And Zack Davies is going to be the highest owned piece here. Projects for just under 30% ownership on DraftKings. He is very value priced. He also had some back issues. Adam, I guess this would be the one where you might want to chime in. The back issues for Davies. He's been pitching pretty deep into games on the year, but do you think that's going to limit his potential there?
It's his first start back from the injured list. Supposedly, the back issues aren't anything that they're worried about. He didn't miss enough time that he even had to make a rehab start. So health-wise, I assume he's fine. Talent-wise, I think is probably a completely different story.
Yeah. So how do you feel about him and that 30% ownership for him? Because, I assume if you're saving with Mckay as much as you are, you're probably not going to get as much Davies, but how are you feeling about him, Adam?
Yeah, I'm not getting to a lot. I have like 10% on DraftKings right now, which puts me well below the field that we have it projected at 27%. It's not that I think he's a bad point per dollar option. He's 4,200. The only site where he's in play at all is DraftKings, but he's 4,200 there. And there's not a whole lot of risk in taking fully stretched out pitchers at that price point. The problem is just that if he's going to get that kind of ownership, he more often than not, he's going to put up a raw point score that leaves you needing to pick up points at other positions. And it's one thing if you're getting unique lineups by taking that risk, but you're not. You're still competing with a third of the field. And so you're not really giving yourself any kind of an edge when it plays out in your favor, and you're hurting yourself if he goes out there and does get lit up. So I would rather be getting the Cardinals bats here. You can get leverage here against Davies. He's one of the worst pitchers on the slate, one of the lowest strikeout percentages. The Cardinals lineup is back to being fully healthy with Ozuna and Molina and Carpenter back in the lineup. So I'd rather be getting the Cardinals bats and maybe playing some lineups where, as far as the upside you get from bats, it's not a whole lot different if you go like Mckay and Means or Mckay and even Gallen or something like that, as opposed to going with like a Bauer or Davies for a similar salary. So I would rather just go to some of these mid-range guys, take on some risk, and not have a 30% on Zach Davies.
Alex, do you share that sentiment about Zach Davies?
I honestly think that if a guy is like 30% on, that usually means that they're a good play. We'll see how that final ownership projection shakes out. But the lineup construction that I'm picturing tonight going into effect is taking Mckay as your SP1 probably, or SP2 if you're getting power. And I don't usually find myself rostering two pitchers totaling 11K with Mckay at 7,500 and Davies at 4,200. So that'd be pretty unusual. So I don't think you need to drop down that low a pitcher if you're getting Mckay. So I'd probably prefer some other options. We talked about Trevor Williams, who's 5,900. I think that he projects a lot better than Davies. I'm not worried about the injuries. I'm just worried about the fact that he has 15% strikeouts on the year. I actually think that going to St. Louis as the leverage stack could be an effective strategy if Davies doesn't end up being that high on.
Yeah, you have some decent prices and also some quality hitters in the middle of the order there. A bunch of guys over a 100 WRC plus with a Paul Goldschmidt at a 122, Ozuna at a 108, DeJong at a 105, Carpenter at a 119 going back to last season. So these guys can put some damage on Davies if they want to. I'm going to assume you guys don't have much interest in Dakota Hudson, who's actually struggled pretty mightily versus lefties over a pretty large sample size now with a 198 ISO. And he is getting to face some of the best power lefties in the entire MLB today and a really hot day at St. Louis. But any interest at all in Dakota Hudson, Alex?
Well, actually, to be contrary, no. Actually, I can't even go there. I mean,
I appreciate the effort, though.
I do like the idea of going against Milwaukee, but because they have a lot of strikeouts, but he just isn't a good enough pitcher to take advantage of that.
And what about the Milwaukee stack itself? Who's going to have some ownership for that top four, but then it drops off of a cliff. Are you going to be with the Milwaukee ownership today going against Hudson, given that he does really have noticeable lefty splits overall with a 1.9 whip and a 6 xFIP overall to lefties?
Well, Trent Grisham's price tag has jumped all the way up to 3,500 on DraftKings leading off, so he still continues to be a cash game play, I think. I'm actually more interested on FanDuel where they're priced up just because it seems like not many people are going to be on them tonight. They're not going to pop as far as projection, but it's so easy to fit in Mckay a pitcher that going contrarian on some stacks makes a lot of sense to me.
Adam, how are you feeling about the Milwaukee Hitters today in the spot going against Dakota Hudson?
I like the spot for them. I'm surprised that their implied run total is as low as it is because, like you said, Hudson has struggled with left-handed power, and Milwaukee's got tons of it. Not a high strikeout guy. It's hot in St. Louis. It's pretty much always humid there, so the ball should be carrying. But I agree with what Alex just said about probably preferring Milwaukee on sites where they're actually more expensive in tournaments because I think they're some of the top values at their position. I think Grisham, Grandal, Moustakas are all top values at their respective positions, and that pretty much means that they're going to have high ownership in tournaments. And they are in a good spot, but they're not one of my favorite spots on the slate. So where they're going to have more ownership, I would rather just be targeting some other teams. But on sites where they're going to have less ownership because they're not as good of values, their ceiling is still the same. So I would prefer to get to them on those sites.
Right, that makes sense. Let's keep it moving here. Let's go on to the next game here, which is going to have a lot of ownership for one player in particular, the Angels with their 5.7 implied runs. Heading into Texas, going against Colby Allard. Again, the Angels getting 5.7 implied runs. Texas getting 5.8 implied runs going against Dylan Peters, who has started to level out a little bit and maybe look decent enough that people would consider playing him, but the ownership is not backing that out. Also, Colby Allard, similar thing in a very limited sample size. He did look better in his last start, and he's up to a 27% carried on the year, but has only faced 45 batters. Let's talk about the pitching faster because I imagine this won't be a long conversation. Alex, any interest at all in Colby Allard or Dylan Peters?
No, I mean, this is a really bad park. The over-under is the highest on the slate, I think, and neither team is really rolling out a bad lineup, so I don't see much reason to go there.
Adam, would you share the complete lack of interest for both Allard and Peters?
Yeah. The only site where I think that you'd have to dive deep enough to be considering these guys is DraftKings, and they're both really expensive for, I have absolutely no idea what reason. So, no.
Yeah, Colby Allard is $9,600, which I guess if you look at the one game that he pitched well, then maybe that's.
Yeah, I mean, he's I think, somewhat promising prospect, but I think that he'll probably never be worth $9,600 against the Angels in Texas, and if he is, it won't be for a few years.
It really is funny. The Suddy Gray thing, I think, gets funnier as we go and realize that Colby Allard is also 9,600. I don't want to rub it in, but that is really a kick in the nards on a Monday. But let's talk about the hitting, though, because Mike Trout is going to be as owned as a lot of the top pitching today. He's under Brendan Mckay levels, projecting for over 30% ownership on DraftKings, comparably owned everywhere else, and looking really good in the spot here. Obviously, he is the only hitter above a 100 WRC plus versus a lefty going back to last year, and he is Mike Trout, so he looks really strong here. Alex, how do you handle the situation where Trout is so chalky? And the Angels are also going to have some ownership, too, as a full stack, but Trout is kind of in a category of his own. Do you just match the field on him? Do you go over? How do you handle like a very chalk position player like this who actually is really good?
Yeah, I think that he has one of the highest projections of any player I've put out this whole year. I mean, the positive platoon split versus Allard, the weather, the park. But I think in any situation, there's an argument to fade a high-owned batter just because of the ownership, because I have him projected to like 14, I guess. And that means that half the time he's going to be under that. But really, like, from your batters, you need probably an average of maybe like 18 to 20 across your 8 batters to win a tournament on DraftKings and Yahoo, and a higher on FanDuel. So I think that more often than not, he's not going to be in the winning lineup. And for that reason, I think that is pretty reasonable.
Adam, how do you feel about that? I assume you're going to have a similar take on it, but I guess how do you feel about relative to the ownership on Trout? Will you be with the field? Do you be above it? Will you be beneath it?
Yeah, so I obviously agree with that. And on bigger slates, I normally don't really get much higher than 30% on any individual hitter, unless it just happens to be a weird slate where I'm just like jamming in tons of stacks of one team. And that's the case today. Like Trout on DraftKings is my highest owned hitter. I have him right around 30%. So I'm close to the field, a little below it. But what I'm seeing with my lineups is that I'm underweight on pretty much every other Angel, especially the ones that are popular, like Justin Upton and Fletcher and Max Stassi. So what I think probably is happening is the Angels are, some of their guys are really good values, including Trout. So the field is getting there, and I'm underweight on all of the guys who actually aren't good hitters. And then I'm right there with them on Trout, which means that in my more contrarian stacks, I'm using Trout as a one-off, which I'm fine with because my lineup's already contrarian. But I'm not doing a whole lot of pairing Trout with, Upton and Fletcher and the guys that everyone else is pairing him with. So I like having a lot of Trout, but I just want him in already contrarian lineups.
That makes sense. What about the Texas side here? Alex, let's turn back to you because Texas is getting some ownership, but not a ton, and they're not good on the year versus left-hand pitching, but obviously have a ton of power, and it is almost a 100-degree day in Texas, so you could talk yourself into anybody in that spot, especially going against Peters, too. Overall, has given up a 197 ISO to both sides of the plate combined, going back to last season as well. How are you feeling about Texas as a stack, Alex? Because they actually are projected for more implied runs than the Angels are right now.
Actually, on my projections, I have them for 6 in the Angels.
Oh, yeah. My bad. You have slightly different ones than the ones that I pull. My bad.
I think, the reason why is because since they're at home, you can't project them to score as many runs as the Angels since they're getting half inning less. But I think that they're definitely in play. The ownership is pretty high on FanDuel and Yahoo, and it's about half of that on DraftKings in comparison. So like the most on DraftKings. A team with that's much stronger against right-handed pitchers for sure, as you mentioned. But I think that you can still make a pretty nice lineup with those lefties, even Inshu, Ordur, and Mazzara are all priced pretty reasonably too. So you can make your lineup even contrarian by throwing in a couple of them.
Makes sense. Adam, how are you feeling about Texas overall?
Yeah, I hate when Texas faces a lefty in these conditions because individually there's like no players that I want because most of them are not very good. But as a collective, it's obviously a really high upside spot. So on this, so it ends up really coming down to ownership for me. But right now, like Alex said, on FanDuel and Yahoo, maybe they're a little bit more popular, so I wouldn't get to them as much. But on DraftKings, they're not getting a lot of ownership. They are reasonably priced for the hitting conditions here against a mediocre pitcher in Peters. So I like being overweight on them as a stack. I don't anticipate using a lot of them as one-offs. Like I think a very high percentage of my exposure to the Texas hitters will be as part of full Texas stacks because I don't have any of them grading out as great individual plays. But it's clearly a really high upside spot that isn't getting a ton of ownership on DraftKings.
Yeah, that makes sense. People don't want to seem to pay up for Danny Santana either, though, even though he's been probably the best power hitter on Texas this year with Joey Gallo out. So that could be one spot to take advantage of as well. But the $5,400 price, for just $200 more, you're getting Mike Trout at all that chalk. So that is something to consider as well. Let's keep it moving on to Detroit here, getting 3.1 implied runs going against Wade Miley. So that is the lowest implied total on the slate. Houston on the other side getting the highest one, a very nice 6.9 implied runs going against Edwin Jackson, who has looked resurgent relative to Edwin Jackson his last two starts, giving up only 2 earned runs and 1 earned run in them. This is obviously a whole different ball game here going against Houston and a team who is going to obliterate pretty much any right-handed pitcher, but especially one would think Edwin Jackson. So Adam, how are you feeling about the pitchers here? Any interest at all in Wade Miley or the illustrious Edwin Jackson?
Definitely no interest in Jackson for me. Some interest in Miley now that his ownership projection has come down. It looks like on DraftKings right now I'm getting right around the field. He's very, very clearly overpriced at $11,200. But if you have Trevor Bauer getting 30% ownership and you have Miley getting 10, I think that I have them projected close enough to where I don't mind, kind of having some of that be Miley, especially because he is $500 cheaper. It's a great matchup against the Tigers. He doesn't have a ton of ceiling. It's just that the pitching on this slate's pretty questionable, and you're just hoping that he gives you a good enough game to be one of the top scorers. On FanDuel and Yahoo, he's more reasonably priced, but so are all the other pitchers that you would rather get to. So relatively, he's still not that attractive. But it is one of the lowest implied run totals on the slate. We know that the Tigers are just a really bad team that strikes out a lot. So I'm okay with getting to some Miley as long as he's going to be low owned.
Alex, how are you feeling about both Miley and Edwin Jackson? On your projections, neither looks that great, but Adam made a pretty compelling case for Miley as a pivot to Bauer there, at least, or as an addition to. And Edwin Jackson, his record speaks for itself. So I'm assuming you want to get there at pretty high volume. How are you feeling about these guys, Alex?
Yeah, I'm liking this 8.62 ERA for Edwin Jackson. I mean, that can only go down. He's due for regression, so maybe he could go there. Miley, I think if I was going to play him on any site, it would probably be FanDuel because the 9K price tag is pretty reasonable. It's not going to be the best option. The Detroit lineup, although they are below average in getting on base and power by a little bit, they strike out about the average rate. So this matchup, is good for run prevention. But it's not putting me over the moon on Miley by any means. And I think his strikeout rate of 20% kind of indicates that he should be more priced like a 7.5K pitcher, 7K across the industry. And he's not, so I'm not really that excited about it.
And Edwin Jackson, you assume he should also be priced like a 7K, 8K pitcher, but you don't want to get there today?
Yeah, this is a guy that in his career, he's been like a really good pitcher. So
look, if he can keep doing anything for 15 years, I think you're good in some way, even if you're not getting the results. So it's got to count for something for old Edwin today. But obviously, Houston looks really good here with that high run total. Again, 6.9 implied runs. Just got to get that in there as many times as you can. Some ownership here going to Bregman and Springer on DK, not as much everywhere else. And going to Jordan Alvarez, we talked about the Trout comparison. If you are going to Jordan Alvarez today, you are doing it at $200 more than Mike Trout, but maybe he justifies it in some way. I don't know. How are you approaching Houston stacks today, Alex?
I think that Houston is probably one of my favorite stacks of the day. I think that some higher value options like the Angels will siphon away ownership from Houston, and they have the highest team total of the day by half a run. So I think that you have to be really bullish about their chances, and the prices are pretty reasonable. They're just not the best on the slate. So I think I'm going to be rolling out a lot of Houston tonight.
All right, Adam, would you agree there on Houston being one of your preferred stacks on the day?
Yeah, I love Houston because while I think that you'll have some individual hitters that are popular, it's going to be really difficult to full stack them, especially on DraftKings and Yahoo, where they're really expensive, 1 through 6. I think you're going to see people using them as one-offs or maybe even mini stacks, but you can be kind of contrarian by having all of them together in a really favorable spot against a questionable pitcher in Edwin Jackson and a bad bullpen behind him. You also do get some value at the bottom of the lineup. I haven't recrunched since their lineup came out without Jose Altuve in it, but you get Jack Mayfield at 2,500 hitting 8th. Robinson Chirinos has power at 3,400 as a catcher option, and then Josh Reddick is cheap as well. So I'm getting a lot of these guys as some of my highest owned at their respective positions. Springer, Alvarez, Correa, Bregman, all up there. I was getting a lot of Altuve. Obviously, I won't anymore. But, it's just a spot that I really like getting to in tournaments because as a full stack, I just have a hard time thinking that people are going to be playing it a lot. And when they do, it'll probably be with something like Zack Davies where as long as, he does what I'm projecting him to do, I can still get an advantage in those lineups.
That makes sense. All right, let's keep it moving here so we can hit the deadlines here. And of course, hit that like button as we go here because we are rounding out the last 2 games. And the advice from these 2 brilliant men across from me, Alex and Adam, will only be as good as the amount of likes we get. So hit that like button for us right now. We got the White Sox getting 3.9 implied runs going against Kyle Gibson, who is also over 10K, joining the over 10K club today for all these illustrious pitchers we've talked about. And Minnesota on the other side getting 6.1 implied runs for them going against Ivan Nova, who is not a good pitcher, obviously, but has done a better job limiting production than it seems with a 4.9 xFIP on the year and just a 1.4 whip. And he just seems to hang in there long enough. But Minnesota getting a lot of runs here and also getting Nelson Cruz back in the lineup. And their lineup actually did just come out as well. So we have, I think, pretty much all of our lineups. Yeah, I think we got all of our lineups now. So that's pretty impressive. How are you feeling about the pitcher in this game, Adam? Are you going to have any Kyle Gibson or Ivan Nova?
I think that Gibson's kind of interesting because it is a decent matchup against the White Sox. They have a balanced lineup with 4 righties and 5 lefties, and we prefer Gibson against righties. But I think the important thing is that the good hitters in this lineup are all right-handed. Abreu, Jimenez, Anderson, and McCann are the most dangerous hitters, and he'll have the platoon advantage here. 24.5% strikeout percentage against righties. So it is reasonable. I have him projected similarly to like a Zack Gallen and below Brendan McKay, but in the same ballpark. He's about the same price on FanDuel. He's a little bit more expensive on Yahoo, but I think that maybe you get him at a little bit lower ownership. The problem is that on DraftKings, he's 10,100. I have him projected similarly to Wade Miley, so I think that I'll probably end up in a similar situation where I get him in some lineups, but not a guy that I get tons of because I would just rather save money and go to Zack Gallen or Brendan McKay or take chances on cheaper guys.
Alex, how are you feeling about Gibson and Nova here? Are you going to have any Gibson interest?
I think Gibson is interesting, but I probably will be a little bit under the field. I think that you got like that minus 215 money line, and the White Sox have one of the lower team totals of the day. But the lineup they're rolling out actually isn't that favorable for strikeouts. It's merely average. Just a lot of guys in the low 20s. So I think that the matchup's not amazing. It's probably good, but I like his price on FanDuel and Yahoo at 7,439, but 10.1K on DraftKings is just way too high for a guy with 23% strikeouts. So I think I'll leave that to some other people. And his ownership isn't even that low, so I prefer going to maybe Mckay on FanDuel, who has slightly higher ownership, but also a higher projection at the same price.
That makes sense. And I'm assume we're not going to have any White Sox hitters. So for the sake of expediency, let's go on to the Minnesota side for those hitters, because those guys are going to be decently owned and they have a decent chance to be a top stack according to the top stacks tool. But it looks like their ownership will be a little bit higher than their chance of being a top stack today. So people do seem like they want to go to Minnesota, and obviously you got a bunch of good hitters in there, having Cruz in there as well. And Marwin Gonzalez, who is not in the projected lineups, will also be in. Having him as a switch hitter could be an asset. Alex, how are you feeling about the Minnesota stack here, given that they do have one of the higher implied totals on the slate?
Hang on, Chris. I got to check our likes to determine the quality of the advice I'm giving out. It looks like we got more than 100, so I think I'll give out my best advice. Minnesota today, I think they're a good stack, but not a great one because the ownership is pretty in line with their chance of being the top play of the night, and their value is also like pretty reasonable. They're just fairly priced, and I prefer going to a stack like Houston where they're projected to score a whole run more. The ownership is also like fairly reasonable. So I'll have Minnesota, but maybe not to as high a degree as some other stacks.
Adam, do you feel any differently there? Or perhaps if we got to 200 likes, you might have an even better opinion. You could pull out a crystal ball.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat. I'm definitely getting to Minnesota because they're such a high upside offense. I also had crunched my lineups without Nelson Cruz, so I'll have to redo that. But Cruz being in there, while it makes the Twins more dangerous, it also makes them more expensive, and I still don't like them as much as I like Houston if I'm paying up. So it'll be a stack that I get to for sure, but probably not, or definitely not as much as I'm getting to like Houston or some other teams that I like.
All right, that seems fair. Let's go on to the last game here on the slate. Colorado heading into a matchup with Arizona with Arizona. Zack Gallen on one side getting 4 implied runs going against Colorado. On the other side, we have Chichi Gonzalez, also the many illustrious pitchers on the slate. A guy who's been getting shelled, but also pitching at Coors, so that's going to certainly drive up those numbers a bit. But versus lefties in particular, looking egregious with a 2.6 whip and a 9.6 xFIP in a limited sample size. Arizona's getting 5.5 implied runs, so I assume we're not going to have much Chichi Gonzalez interest. But Alex, Zack Gallen's a guy you mentioned. How much Gallen do you anticipate having? Because he's going to be a decently owned. It doesn't look like he projects that well for you overall.
Man, this is a crazy coincidence that you mentioned Colorado playing Arizona, and it's also in Arizona, like this month. But I think
it could have been in Tokyo, though. You don't know.
That's a good point. Like I heard of some game, like Pittsburgh game is like somewhere else, Pennsylvania or something crazy. So I'm glad that you reaffirmed that this is in Arizona. I think that he's a good player. I mean, he's had 27% Ks this year. And he's getting a lot of respect from Vegas with Colorado only having a 4.5 team total then, even though they're rolling out a pretty good lineup. So I think that great pitcher, maybe not my favorite matchup of the night, but I think on Yahoo he's especially good at 33, whereas on DraftKings FanDuel he's more expensive than maybe some better options.
Adam, would you agree with the thoughts on Gallen here, or do you have more interest? Because he has been pretty good in this park too. I think some people may be confused because I know on some of the sites that had the roof as being open today is very much not open. The roof is closed at Chase Field. So that could certainly help out Gallen a bit. How are you feeling about him, Adam?
Yeah, I think I'm a bit higher on Gallen here, even on DraftKings where he is. I would say he's a little overpriced at 9,300, but I think he's less overpriced than guys like Gibson and Wade Miley are. And so like if you look at pairings, you can go Trevor Bauer plus Zach Davies, or for like less than $1,000 more, you can go Brendan Mckay plus Zack Gallen. And I think that the Gallen Mckay pairing just gives you a higher projection and a higher ceiling. Colorado, of course, is much worse outside of Coors Field, as you would expect. Not a ton of strikeouts in this lineup, but you still have some with guys like Story, McMahon, Hampson, and the pitcher spot. And Gallen has shown, good strikeout stuff in the major league so far. He struck out about 33% at AAA this year. His walk percentage is high in the majors, but based on minor league numbers, I expect that to come down a bit. Plate discipline numbers are all above average in the majors so far. Good pitcher's park. So I think I'm a little bit higher on Gallen.
What about the Arizona hitters going against Chichi Gonzalez? I'm just going to blow him off. I don't want to disrespect Chichi, but I don't think we're going to get there. But how about the Arizona hitters going against him? Because Chichi has shown an affinity to getting blown up, but he has been pitching in Colorado, so maybe a pitcher's park will help him out. Adam, how are you feeling about the stack for Arizona, which will have some ownership on it?
Yeah, I think it's okay. I'd prefer it if it were a little bit lower owned. Like I think you have some solid values. In particular, David Peralta hitting fourth is a nice value. Jake Lamb's a nice value. But overall, it's just hard for me to prioritize them as much as some other teams. Like right now, I think I prefer Minnesota. I prefer Houston. It looks like I'm even getting to a little bit more Angels, even though I'm underweight on them.
Alex, how are you feeling about the Arizona hitters going against Chichi?
I see the advantage here. I mean, they have a team total of nearly 6. Chichi Gonzalez clearly not a good pitcher. Doesn't really do anything great. And I see some advantage here with the roster construction as well, because you have on FanDuel Jared Dyson, and on Yahoo he's super cheap at 2,907. In baseball, I tend to make some sacrifices of value to get more contrarian plays. So that would be one guy I potentially leave off my stack. And I think there's some good plays here. So I like it.
All right, that's fair. That closes out the main portion of the show. So, guys, give me your top stacks on the slate. Adam, who would be your top stack choices?
Houston on DraftKings, where they're lower owned. I'll take Texas also.
Alex, how about you? Top stacks?
Houston and I like Arizona.
And Adam, who would be your pitching choices for the fine folks out there?
Brendan McKay and Zack Gallen.
Alex, how about you?
I like Brendan McKay on every site. On Yahoo, I like Zack Gallen, and on DraftKings, I like Trevor Williams.
All right, so stay on this feed right now, guys, because Live Before Lock is coming up next with Jake and Josh. Also, go to awesemo.com/join and use the promo code Deeper Dive to get half off your first month of Awesemo Plus. All the data that we talk about on this show, as well as what they'll talk about on Live Before Lock next. You get all that for half off your first month with that promo code Deeper Dive. Also, thank you to Yahoo. Go check out the Spotlight Stacks article from Emacs. Go see how to go on to Yahoo. Get yourself $30 free with a deposit. Use the promo code Awesemo on Yahoo. But go check out that article from Emac right now on the homepage. And Adam and Alex, any parting words? Alex, I guess I'll turn to you first because you are the boss man. Any parting words for the fine folks out there?
Just thanks everyone for watching, and I'm hoping Brendan McKay turns into a good performance here, because otherwise my advice tonight is going to really suck.
All right, that's it for us, guys. We'll be back tomorrow for another deeper dive. I believe tomorrow it'll be Josh joining this 3-man weave. So keep your eyes peeled there and stay on this channel right now to watch Live Before Lock coming up in just a few short moments. Thanks, guys. Good luck.
Woo! There we go. Live Before Lock. Monday, right? August 19th. And these days where I don't do the strategy show in the morning, I just feel so blind to the slate. But I've got my crunches done. I'm ready to go and ready to do this. Jake, what's going on?
Yeah, man, I'm in the same boat. I'm pretty much ready to go. I mean, the slate could start in 20 minutes for all I care.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I wish it would. I'm being honest. You can kind of see my PlayStation 4 controller on the screen. Anyway, not important. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Let's get the plugs out of the way first. Live Before Lock is the promo code. One big word. You can get 50% off your first month of Awesemo Plus, any monthly package you choose, including packages with Fantasy Cruncher. All you have to do is enter the promo code Live Before Lock when signing up. Also, we are brought to you on the Live Before Lock show by Fantasy Draft. If you are interested in playing rake-free DFS, and really, who isn't? You should go to fantasydraft.com, use the promo code AWESOMO when signing up. You can get a 7-day trial where your first $1,000 of entries are completely rake-free. All coming right back out to the people that win. So if you want to check that stuff out, I highly recommend it. Go to fantasydraft.com, use the promo code AWESOMO, $1,000 for the first 7 days, completely rake-free in entries. Can't beat it. Jake, let's talk some pitching. You ready?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Let's do it.
How do you feel about 27% owned Zack Davies?
Not great. I was listening to the deeper dive before, and I kind of agree about. I don't even know that you need to get that cheap. Like he's a guy that you're going to get to when you get to Bauer,
right?
And like we have Mckay as the best play on the slate by a good margin as far as value goes. So I haven't needed to get to all that much Davies, which I'm pretty excited about. He's a low upside option anyways. I think even if you get to like 12 points here, maybe even 15, you might be able to make that up with a hitter or two, like one home run. If you can match that with your, 6K pitcher or whatever, like your Trevor Williams or whoever you go to instead of Davies. So not really finding a need to get there. What about you?
I'm equal to the field as of right now, but I'm not exactly like happy about it.
Yeah. I mean, he's just not. He's not bad. He's a fine pitcher. Should be in the major leagues. He's not one of these complete gas cans.
Yeah.
But you've also got Cardinals team on the other side that I like. It's 88, almost 90 degrees, humid in St. Louis. Doesn't seem like great pitching weather, and you've got a good total here for the Cardinals as well. So at that ownership, he just doesn't project well enough for me to want to play a ton of Davies. Do you have is your projection pretty high on him?
Nothing crazy. I mean, barely double digits.
Yeah, I mean, I think Alex has him even a little bit less, at least on DK. Well, obviously we're talking DK.
He tends to run like 10% lower across everybody than I do. So I would be on like just waiting it to have the same totals. I would be in single digits.
Okay. Yeah. It's like I doubt he's going to have a much higher projection than that anywhere. But he's just a guy tonight.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. I just happen to have him because he's 4,200. What are you doing with Brendan Mckay?
Yeah, so he's my highest exposed guy by a mile on both sites, I think. Actually, let me take a look at FanDuel. Yeah, highest by a mile.
Okay.
I just I don't see a reason not to play a ton of Mckay here. He's just look at like K percentage. He's one of the best pitchers on the slate. It's a phenomenal park. It's a good matchup, low implied total, kind of aggregates all that. And yeah, he's getting a ton of ownership, but it doesn't matter. I just think he's more of a free square than anything. So I'll take 7,500. I think he's like the one guy that's like underpriced tonight in this mid to high tier.
Yeah, I'm with the field there as well. 50%, 51 technically. That's like basically the most that I was able to get of him, but he's clearly the best play relative to salary on the entire slate.
Yeah, there's the slate. Like oftentimes I won't get a pitcher above like 50%, but I think this slate calls for it, at least with what I'm trying to do with bats and getting away from the field at least a little bit.
Yeah. So talk to me then, since I know where you're at for these two guys. Not a lot of people getting ownership today. What are you doing with the Trevor Bauer, Wade, Miley combo at the top?
I have actually a pretty decent amount of Bauer on all sites. So like I'm over on Bauer on DK right now. I don't know if that's going to stick. And then essentially, 0 Wade Miley I got in my last crunch.
I have 1%, so we're on the same page there. Just
take the better pitcher, I think, at 11.7. And I think Miley's more in play on FanDuel. He's, 9K? He's 9K over there.
Yeah, I barely have him there, too.
let's see. Did I even get to like? There's Gibson. Gibson's on the slate. I don't know.
Yeah, we're gonna have a conversation about Kyle Gibson shortly. So,
all right. Well, I just think Miley's at least in play on FanDuel. One lineup out of 150. Wow. I don't know. I mean, it's very, very concentrated today, and it looks like ownership is pretty efficient today. If you look at the top stack tool, at least on bats, and that usually means for pitchers, it's pretty good as well.
So I think we should probably do this now. I have 38% Bauer. I'm pretty happy about that on DK. I'm a little under the field on FanDuel, though. The guy that we need to talk about is Kyle Gibson. I don't even know how to start this conversation. I have 29% on DraftKings right now.
Yeah.
I have 42% on FanDuel. I have more Gibson than Mckay.
It's not bad. What's wrong with that? Gibson's one of the better pitchers on this slate overall.
Sure. It feels weird not having more Mckay than Gibson.
Yes. I think, yeah. Okay. So
they're separated by $100 on FanDuel.
Right. It's a pick 'em basically. You're going to get the exact same lineup construction if you ended up on more Gibson, or if you're not as high on Mckay, that's going to happen. So I don't think that'd be the end of the world. I got more Mckay than Gibson, but like if someone said their main stand for today was Gibson over Mckay, that's not a terrible stand to take when at least on DK where the ownership is huge. The ownership gap is huge.
Oh God. It's going to be an interesting night. I'm kind of loving it. So I only have basically 6 pitchers, and it's sort of the same way that the field is going. Bauer, Gibson, Gallen, Mckay, Trevor Williams, Davies. But I'm a lot over on Gibson and kind of Bauer and a little bit light on Gallen. And then I basically just don't have the other guys. I have small, like 3 or 4% shares of everybody. On FanDuel, even more aggressive, 85% of my exposure going to Bauer, Gibson, Mckay.
85 Bauer, Gibson, Mckay. Yeah.
I mean, if Mckay and Gibson are going to be 75 and 74, like it's really hard to not have those guys in more than half of your lineups.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
There's just no reason, I don't think, to get cute tonight at pitching. There's it's not like we have talented guys that are overpriced. It's like
Right.
We got bad pitchers that already suck when they're 7K and now they're 9K tonight. At least on DraftKings, like Lauer, Joe Ross is overpriced. You've got John Means, I know, one of your boys, and
So good,
8-3.
John Means so good.
Yeah. We've got a Kevin Mckay in chat. People are talking about their favorite Mckays. That off topic, but have you seen Euphoria?
Not yet. It's next up on the list. We are a couple days away from starting.
Okay. So that just reminded me, Mckay. He's one of the characters in the show. It's crazy. It's a crazy show. Yeah.
I've heard. It's next on the list. I will know what you're talking about before August is over.
Oh yeah, you'll binge it in a few days.
Yep.
It's unreal.
Again. It's weird. This is one. Do you have any other Mckays, by the way? Dylan Mckay is the answer. That's number one.
I don't know a lot of Mckays. Yeah, Rinpack's agreeing with me.
Dylan Mckay is the only answer.
I don't know who that is.
Dylan Mckay is Luke Perry's character in 90210.
All right, I know it. I know I've heard of the show.
He's dead,
but
now R.I.P.
R.I.P. indeed. But yeah, that's. I'm sure I'm gonna start a rabbit hole in premium Slack for the people that have seen it. But
oh yeah,
people love talking about non-baseball stuff in Slack, as we know.
If we could talk about the correct sport in the correct channel one day out of the week, that'd be great. I don't know how to break down pitching right now. Is there anybody that's chalky that you hate? I mean, I don't like Davies. He's just a function of being 4,200 is all. But
okay. Yeah. That's basically where I'm at too. But
nobody out there is I really like Dakota Hudson today. I really want Chichi Gonzalez. Kobe Allard is great. It's just, I feel like the decisions are made for you.
It feels so cut and dry.
It does. Is that good or bad?
it's not good in a variance-based sport, I think. But like if Dakota Hudson has a good game and he gets you 18, you're still not dead. Even if the rest of even if Mckay sucks, someone else is going to be okay. Right. So you're dead tonight if Mckay gets 25 and you don't have him. Like you're done.
Yeah. It's going to be you're going to have to be basically unstacked. You're going to need a lot of the individual correct bats.
You would need the nut. Like you would need 2 double dong. Like you just need the nuts.
Right.
So I'm not good enough to do that. No. So I'm just playing the guy that I think is by far the best play, even though he's owned the most.
Agreed.
I
mean, he's like $2,000 too cheap.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
I think so.
I mean, you can make a case that he should be more expensive than Kyle Gibson today. Which
well, yeah, Gibson's overpriced. They should be around the same price. Like they should be in that 9K range, I think.
Yeah. Craziness. I just I don't know who to talk about. We have 7 guys in double figures in ownership. The rest of the people are all 5 or below. Nope, 7. John Means is actually at 7. Holy shit, I have 6% John Means.
6%?
That's when you know this slate is like super weird. I got to Means.
Well, just as a function of being different, like, I mean, Williams is the guy I'm getting in that range, but someone said they liked Mckay better, or I mean Means better. Then by all means, go ahead.
Look at you.
Like
I've been rubbing off.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. You tell me. I don't know. I mean, these guys are all the same, or they're mega overpriced. Like, so are you getting to any Ivan Nova, Dylan Peter, Colby Allard?
No. Flat zeros across the board. No Allard, no Marco, no Peters, no Hudson, no Nova, no Edwin Jackson. 1 share of Chichi Gonzalez, no Lopez.
What about like Lauer? I guess he's like fringe playable. I would just as a pure pivot to Mckay.
I've got a handful of Means, Ross, and Lauer.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the matchups are just so poor.
Yeah.
What about Jorge Lopez?
I have none.
None?
Zilch, nada.
That's a little bit surprising, I think. But
really?
Yeah, a little bit. Let's see, what is he being owned right now? When's our last ownership update? We're probably gonna get one more.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, rankings. I mean,
last ownership update was at 542. So yeah, we would be getting. I assume we get one additional one.
Yeah, and he's right now at not even 4. The highest owned Jorge. He's 4. So he's bad and not stretched out, but
right,
he's a guy you could go to in lieu of Davies. I still don't even know if that's necessary. I got to 18% on my last one.
Yeah, I must. Apparently, he's a little bit more necessary.
I don't think it's going to stick.
I know the mine is going to stick.
Yeah,
I get him with Mckay. So
well, yeah, then you're stacking basically one team.
Yes.
Yeah. Which I'm all for tonight, but like it's really uncomfortable to try to do that.
Yeah, I'm threading the needle a bit. A lot of Mckay, Davies. But Mckay, Davies, Bauer, Davies, Gibson, Davies. Got all 3 of them.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to talk hitting, but we got so much time yet.
Hitting's going to be good.
I mean, we might need to just get into it and do it once we're done, half talking about pitching.
If chat wants to see us talk about someone, feel free. Are we forgetting someone? I think we've gone. Have we talked about Zack Gallen?
I'm half the field right now. He's fine. I prefer, on DraftKings, I would rather just have Gibson.
I would rather have Gibson as well, but he's a little bit cheaper.
Sure.
He's at least a guy I'm not worried about. Like if I get 15% Zack Gallen or something, I'd be like, all right, that seems about right. on this slate. But let's see. I've just put my crunch in.
I should probably like him more than I do.
The heart wants what it wants, Josh. So Selena Gomez once said.
Did she?
She did. She's got a song.
I have no idea.
I think that's her.
I know a lot of those answers. That's not one of them.
All right. So I've come down on Mckay a bit. How does 76% sound?
It's fine. I wouldn't care if I had 76. I wouldn't have cared if that column had 100 in it.
I think Adam's gonna have 100. Like you say, he likes to message you.
Oh yeah,
be like 100% Mckay. This should end well.
I don't think that today is that kind of day. The day that he says that, it would be oh shit! I knocked my headphones out. Hold on. The day that he would say that would be like, yo, I got 100% Marco Gonzalez today. Pray for me.
Oh God.
Like if Marco Gonzalez was accidentally priced at like 5,800 or something, you know.
Right.
I mean, like playing that much Mckay, I think is smart.
I think so too. I'd much rather be at 100 than 0.
Meanwhile, here I am sitting smack dab in the middle.
It's not bad.
No.
The issue I just don't have with Mckay is like if he was more expensive, then you'd be locking yourself into a certain lineup construction, like Adam talked about on the deeper dive, like we talked about this morning, which is our only issue with Bauer and just expensive pitchers in general.
Yeah.
But like he's just not like you can use him as an SP1. You could go Gallon Mckay, do whatever you want. You go Gibson Mckay and still be fine. You could stack probably everyone outside of the Astros, maybe. You're just going to be able to do whatever you want with him. He just allows you to get everything, and he's the best play. So why not just take advantage?
Man, I've got some really aggressively heavy exposures today.
I'm essentially playing 6 pitchers today. Well, maybe 7 if you count Davies. So 8 guys over 5%, 6 guys over 10. It's Mckay. Well, Williams shot up for me.
Yeah, I got a bunch.
35%.
I don't have that much of a bunch. By the way, Kevin Mckay now dropping Dylan Mckay quotes in YouTube chat. Only person you can trust in this world is yourself. I'll do you one better. May the bridges I burn light my way. Gotta love it.
Oh,
I watched a lot of 90210.
Yeah, it sounds great. Don't understand the reference or the context.
What would be the equivalent? So like my mom watched that show when I was a kid. So if I was like 9 and she was watching that, my mom was 30, like my age right now. So like what would be the show that like kids were gonna, I don't know, like Game of Thrones? But I don't know. What's like what would be a good just like social drama? I guess it's probably reality TV now.
The Bachelor.
Yeah. There's not really like a 90210 type show nowadays.
I don't even know what the show is about, so
I mean, you know, just like 8. Well, at the beginning, high school kids living a high school life in Beverly Hills, and then they grow up and become adults and do dumb shit. But
Gossip Girl, like the OC,
right? Is like that. Yeah, that. Yeah, but
that.
Now I don't know what that is now that like I would watch.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So now I got a kind of a reference point of the type of show.
Yeah, right. I know too. Like Gossip Girl, Dawson's Creek, One Tree Hill, but like an adult version of that because it aired at 8 or 9 o'clock at night. On
right,
I don't know what channel. Now Melrose Place, that one was ridiculous. That's a crazy watch. Anyway, that's how little I have to talk about this silly pitching slate. I've got nothing.
Here you go. I don't know. I don't remember if you hit this off the top of the show, but we still have the biggest giveaway ever.
Oh yeah, that was coming up in 7 minutes right before Dong picks. But let's get to it now to fill the time. It was actually the commercial screen before we got started.
Oh, now you are a crafty vet right there.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. All right, so here let's hit the giveaway plug first and foremost. It ends today. Tonight, midnight. If you have an answer after that and you win, you don't win. It's that easy. If you want to get the possibility of winning a month of Awesemo Plus, head to @Awesemo_com. That's the Twitter handle. You'll find a pinned tweet. You need to retweet, like, and reply to that tweet with a player that stands out to you in Alex's season-long rankings and projections. Whether you think someone is too high, too low, if you think someone is going to be, the stud, that's what you need to do. You need to be following the Awesemo_com account and the Awesemo NFL account. We will pick the winners tomorrow at noon. 10 random winners. And if you are a current Awesemo Plus subscriber, this is the big piece of it all. If you're currently a member, you can win a 30-minute coaching session from the boss man himself, Alex Baker. I can't explain to you guys how important that is and like how awesome that would be. If I didn't work for this company and I knew that I could win a 30-minute session with him, I would do anything I could, particularly very easy 30-second tasks. There's not going to be a better value that we'll give away all year if you have the ability to get 30 minutes with Alex. So highly recommend you do this. Again, go to the Awesemo_com Twitter account and check out the pinned tweet. All of the details are done. Ooh, Sale done for the season.
Who?
Chris Sale.
Oh, he's out. He's got to have surgery. I saw he was going to meet with Dr. James Andrews. So he's done?
That's what somebody just said in YouTube chat.
Yikes. That doesn't bode well for the Red Sox. Kind of a lost season for them.
Yeah.
Talk about the World Series hangover. Maybe the Dodgers will finally get one this year.
Maybe. I'm sure the Red Sox aren't too worried about it.
The reason I thought about the giveaway is because I was scrolling through Twitter and I saw my brother responding about the Bears defense.
Yeah. By the way, ownership update is in.
He's a Bears homer. Okay. So it reminded me.
What's your brother's name?
Steven.
Okay, so the Chicago Steves.
Is
that the new gimmick now?
Call the Bears the Steves. There you go.
There we go. Yeah, ownership is updated.
Yes. All right. So Mckay just sent us 55% for Mckay. Oh my God. Yeah. This is
you don't see that all that often on a non-game slate, a 9-game slate. That is very indicative of how mispriced he is.
Yeah. What do you think about what Alex said about if a guy's 30% owned, he's probably a good play? I didn't expect him to hear that. Like, I didn't expect him to say that on the deeper dive. What do you think about that?
So I know what he means. I think that he probably meant to say this slightly different in that they're a good point per dollar play.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Like, just because Zach Davies gets ownership in, let's say, the mini-max, doesn't necessarily mean that Zach Davies is a good play to win that mini-max, but he's certainly getting that ownership for the right reason. That he
makes sense.
Is projected well. I don't want to put words into his mouth, but I think that's what he was getting at. That they ultimately become good cash plays is probably the better detail for it. But
right.
In a way, I agree with it. I mean, how often do you see a guy get to 30% ownership where you're just like, how the hell is this guy even owned?
You don't. So I guess in that sense, that does make sense. It's usually like, an aggregate of projection systems that people are going to, and they're all going to have Davies around the same. He was talking about Davies when he said it,
right? Or
they're going to have him around the same point per dollar. And Mckay as well. It goes for Mckay. So, okay. He just posted in chat. I just mean there are good reasons to have them. There are good reasons to have them if they are that highly owned.
Right.
That makes
I agree.
sense. I got it. I guess I was thinking about it in a different way. But yeah, you make sense too. Like, why would a guy be 30% owned if he sucked? And there are times where I'll look at the ownership projections and we'll have a guy that's a way better value in Alex's projections, but there will be another guy that's like a couple $100 more expensive, whether it be a bigger name or whatever, and he'll be higher owned. And I'm just, well, for me, I just go with the projections, and the ownership is just a cherry on top there. So it happens like that, but it's not super often.
I'm glad the boss tagged in for that one. Did not want to put words into his mouth.
No, I don't think you were trying to, but I just I didn't know if you had a different take at all.
I mean, for the most part, I agree with it. The more than anything, like the size of the field is going to determine how good that ownership really is.
I also started another thing I was doing today, like right before the show. I started. So we talked about like sum of total ownership in a lineup.
Yeah.
And how you want a lower sum or like a middling sum, while still having good projection. What do you think about multiplying all your ownership percentages together? That way you get a higher, to like figure out how likely it would be to have a duplicate lineup.
That's already what I do.
That's what you do? Okay. Because I've been doing the sum, but now I have it both in my sheet, and I don't know how to factor both of those things in. Right now I just have total ownership because it gets me mostly what I want, but I also want, like, if you have 2-3% owned guys, you could have chalk, and your total would still be high, but your chances of being duplicated in a tournament are really low because of those two guys.
Right.
So yeah, I should probably.
Well, I mean, here's what you do to test it for yourself, to see if it even makes a difference for you. Make a copy of your sheet. Do one with the product, one with the sum, and see what the differences in your exposure are. Compare player to player to see who is what fluctuates the most, to see what the impact is. You could find that there's very little impact and it's not worth the effort to go through it.
Yeah, you're right.
But just duplicate, just do them both.
Yeah, I have them both right next to each other.
Same.
And
I use the sum just to lop off. Like Alex talks a lot about, deleting like the bottom chunk of your lineups. So I just set a percentile of whatever, and then they're just immediately not included even once they're in there. Like I don't have to delete them; they just get excluded. So I just use the sum, bottom 10% gone, just full stop right out of the gate.
Right. Yeah. So that's what I should do, or a combo of both, because like sometimes I just like to search. I crunched 1,000 lineups, and like my top owned lineup, like total ownership percentage, is in my 150, and normally I wouldn't want that unless it's just significantly projected way higher than any other lineup. So that's probably a way to counteract that, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I never even thought about like testing it myself. I'm giving you advice that I've never taken on my own.
Well, I mean, but you probably have done it without even trying to do it,
Yeah, but like that's something that I should look at. I'm talking about it like I did it, but I didn't do it. I put them both in here and I just used the product. I use the sum to just lop off lineups, but I don't look at the sum further than that. But in theory, I should look at them both and actually do the work.
It was something that I saw in Alex's tweet from like a couple months ago that just popped in my head.
Yeah.
And then real quick, one more question, and then we can get to dong picks. What do you think about, like, if you're capping low, you said do you use 3 uniques? Do you like using 3 uniques, or is it necessary?
I use one on both.
Yeah. So I started to do one today, and I'm getting essentially 3 uniques or more on all mine because I'm capping so low.
Yeah. Because of low caps and the way that I've been running crunch. So I've been using team stacks a lot lately and capping my team stacks.
That's also something
to force everything.
Mm-hmm.
So on a day like today, the average that you would have of a team over 18 teams is like 5.5% or whatever. So I'm capping everything at 6. Every crunch that I run, every stack is capped at 6%. So I get combinations of everybody. That way, when I import into my sheet, I have 1,000 lineups, but I have shares of everything and can get the things if I need to.
Yeah, for sure. That was something. That was a question that I thought about today, but I just got distracted or something. And I think you could do that if you're running a ton of lineups, because Alex's office hours yesterday, and if you guys aren't taking advantage of that, you really should be. But they just made me think about a ton of things that I'm doing possibly wrong or not as efficiently as I should, or not getting exactly what I want to get out of doing this work in Excel. So you should go back and read those if you have access to premium Slack. I would highly, highly, highly recommend that.
I read them every time, and it kills me because he does them relatively on the late night for me. So I have a little bit of the devil's lettuce, hang out in the house for a bit, read that, and then as I'm falling asleep, right before I'm falling asleep, that's when I start getting all of these ideas of like things that I want to check. I actually added 2 notes to my phone just before falling asleep last night of things that I wanted to test from what I read from Alex's office hours last night.
Right. I did the same thing. And I have notes that I think of all the time right here on Post-it where I just like think of different questions to ask not only Alex, but like you and Adam and, anyone whose game I highly respect. So, yeah, it's really helpful. And I just, I don't want to dominate the chat or anything, but yeah.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. That's because if I don't shout it into my phone at that time, it's gone, man. That stuff floats away. Brain just gets moving. All right, let's do dong picks. It's about that time. We're at the midway point. Randone getting in early with Tom Murphy. Normally I would be like, oh, he's making his pick before we are, but don't think you and I were taking Tom Murphy, so I think it's going to be safe.
Yeah.
I am in a cold streak right now, and that is not coinciding with a very good run from you right now, which is just, I thought I had a shot, and now I don't. You are now 1 dong behind EMAC, 28-27. You got another one yesterday. You have 8 dongs since August 6th, and honestly, it could be 15? No, 13? You could have just as easily had Gio Urshela and Yordan Alvarez on days where they hit double dongs again and a triple dong. We talked about them.
No, I talked about I'm not going to take so-and-so double, triple dong back to back.
Yeah.
So maybe if I just took who I wanted to take and didn't try to be, try to do the Chris Randone where, you're just taking Harold Castro and he's, 2 inches from a dong. You don't get style points, I've figured out. So
you
my last 3
do not get style points.
Devers, Betts, Alonso, Gleiber were my last 4. So it's like, just take good players. It's really hard to predict home runs.
It is. So again, you are 1 back of EMAC. I am 5 back of you now. Spags 3 back of me. You have now taken the overall lead in pick percentage as well. So if you can tie EMAC, that is a tiebreaker for you.
Yeah. I mean, we got a month left. EMAC and I will be, and you'll be doing baseball too. And
yes.
At least somewhat. So a lot of time.
I'll be doing baseball all the way through, probably even during the postseason.
Yeah.
Because
I would imagine
there's only, Tom and I found out today, there's only the NBA season starts like the last week of October. So the overlap between baseball and basketball is only going to be like 10 days at most.
Oh, okay. So hockey starts October 2nd.
So yeah, like the NBA is like the 22nd.
Got it.
So yeah, I ain't going nowhere. Make your dong pick.
All right, here we go. Why don't you give me Yordan Alvarez?
Damn it. I was just about to pick him too. I hate you so much.
Saw the look in your eyes. I can't believe you let me pick first again.
I have to let you pick first. You have earned it. I'm a man of principle. You have earned the right to pick before me. Yordan Alvarez is in. Tom Murphy is in. Now I need to figure out who I'm taking. I really like that Alvarez pick, man. I might even just put the home run in there now. Oh.
Well, it's just a matter of does he get 2 or 3,
Let's hope 0.
I think the correct I think you take Astros. Like you're trying to win. EMAC should be taking an Astro here, I think.
Yeah. I mean, we know who Spags is taking, right? There's never been a more Mike Trout pick today than right now.
Yeah, for sure,
so
Trout.
That's happening. I have very little doubt there. Do I want to do this? I've got one I like a lot, but I don't know if I can do it. I might have to just... I got to go back to my boy here.
Suarez?
No, I went here 2 days ago and it didn't work. Give me Eddie Rosario.
Good pick. Someone just said legalized. Just said Rosario dong pick. So there you go.
Yeah. Honestly, I would like to go Nelly Cruz today, but I'm going to give him more than just 1 day. Yep, there's Spags taking Trout.
Did he do that on purpose? He had to have done that on purpose, right?
I mean, what do you mean on purpose?
Oh, he didn't see us, or he didn't hear us say that first.
No.
Like Trout.
Well, right. I mean, we knew it was a foregone conclusion.
That is so funny.
Damn it. The second you said it on the show, I hate you both. Oh, Emac on Bregman, who I believe is my most exposed hitter.
That's yeah. So that's exactly what I would do if I'm Emac. Like I took a chalky, or not chalky, but like a guy who's got one of the better chances of hitting a homer. You should take a guy on the same team.
Oh,
it's Edwin Jackson. So no more advice for Emac. He was probably going to take him anyways, but
Chris over here just being a complete coward.
Yeah, he's got to. Let's see. He's got to get. So I don't know. It's not over.
I mean, no ability to win. Neither do I. This is a 2-horse race now.
He would need like a quadruple dong.
It's over, man.
Yeah, I don't know. It'd be really difficult for him to win.
It is over. Which, it's fine. Not everybody can win. I'm not gonna win. I'm not saying it like I've got a shot. I'm dead in the water too. This is a 2-horse race.
I had 0 home runs in April, I think.
What a comeback.
These things are highly, highly variant.
Oh, they are for sure. But, with 6 weeks to go, that is a hell of a win. Unless you stopped making picks, I have no chance.
If I get like a double dong tonight, maybe I should just stop until Emac surpasses me.
Like you're trying to win the batting title?
Right. I need a new contract. Like, come on, man. I need that batting title.
So you got to do, man. Sit out the last day if you're already in the lead. Honestly, I would do that. If I were winning and I could lose the tiebreaker by picking, I would just skip my pick.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Oh, yeah. Chris is also out next week. I mean, I would just set an alarm in my phone for 6:30 every night and just shout out a name. That's what I did. What night was it? JD Martinez, I believe. No, it wasn't JD Martinez. When was I definitely not on? Oh, it might have been the Eddie Rosario night where I was just like, okay, I'm not around here.
Yeah.
So, it's time to talk hitting now that dong picks are in. Who is your top stack of the day?
The Houston Astros.
You and me both, buddy.
Yeah.
So I have a ton.
It's kind of annoying that Mckay is such a good play tonight because now more people are going to be able to get to the Astros.
Yeah.
But I'm still getting more. And they're the best play. Edwin Jackson is awful, as we know. He's had 2 decent starts in a row. This is one of the worst teams he could face. Probably up there. Them and the Dodgers, I would say, are the 2 worst teams he could possibly face. Just in terms of guys that aren't going to strike out, have massive power, and super deep. Someone's going to get him, probably multiple times. And there's just no weak spots. And I love that they're priced up because they should be crazy chalk tonight, and they're not because we've got an 11-7 Bauer. And I'm playing a bunch of Bauer, but I'm trying to get as many Astros in as possible.
You and me both. They are my most owned stack. I've got over 20% in the aggregate on FanDuel and DraftKings. Everybody I have from the Astros is massively owned. Springer, Correa, Bregman, Brantley, Reddick are the guys that I have the most over the field. Like, of everybody, those are my most owned guys.
Including pitchers?
That was relative to the field, but I have more Springer, Bregman, Correa, Brantley, Alvarez. Yeah, I have more of these guys than pitchers.
So they're not necessarily all my highest exposed hitters or guys I'm most overweight on, but like
I don't have the pitchers in the damn table. No, I have more Mckay.
Got it. Wait, I thought you said Oh, okay. I thought you meant over the field. Got it.
No, over the field. If we're talking over the field, even still, massively over on like Springer and Bregman and Correa and Brantley.
So I'm like 2-3x all of the guys that are getting low owned, and then the only guy right now I'm underweight on is Mayfield because he's chalky, like incredibly chalky for an 8-hitter.
Yeah,
Astro Stack could go nuts, and
I am under on Mayfield as well on DraftKings, not so much on FanDuel.
I haven't looked at FanDuel. I probably have 1,000. Yeah, so Jordan Alvarez is my highest exposed guy.
I have 35% Springer on FanDuel, 33% Bregman, similar numbers on DK. I've got 13% or more of everybody.
I've got 13%, or no, I'm sorry, 8.7 for Gurriel, but everyone else is above 17 on FanDuel.
Yeah. I got 18 on Mayfield on DK, 21 on FanDuel. FanDuel's a little bit different just because there's so many guys that are priced like the low twos that the 2,500 on DraftKings reads differently.
Someone said, Rob's Boston in premium chat, what's the lowest total ownership you guys are getting to in your crunches?
Wait, it's in premium?
It's in premium.
What's
Rob's
the lowest
Boston.
total ownership? I don't understand.
Just like, I mean, you could get to a really low own, like a team with 50% ownership that you might get in your crunch, but that doesn't mean you should necessarily play them. Right now, the lowest I'm seeing is right around 60. Just scrolling through my best 150 right now.
Oh, like the lowest aggregate?
Yeah, lowest total ownership if you add up.
Okay.
So obviously that lineup does not have Mckay. It's a Gibson Jorge Lopez lineup, but it grades out incredibly well.
If we're talking DK, my lowest is 88.
That's probably,
No, 81. Everything else is in like the mid hundreds.
And I like to look at Alex's and Tom's and just a bunch of really good players to see what their total ownership is on certain size slates, or at least the night before, because I'm seeing a lot of 120s, 125, 157, 160, and that seems like a lot for other slates. But when you have a 55% owned pitcher, it just sways everything so much.
Let me see. On FanDuel, my low is 47. I could actually give these answers. On DraftKings, I think it's 81, but let me look quickly. On DraftKings, it is 81. I was right. Let's see what that lineup is that's 81. It is my 146th of 150.
Nice.
It's a 4-man... Nope, it's a 5-man Rocky stack.
Okay, against Zach Allen.
Yeah, so we've got Kyle Gibson, Trevor Williams, Walters, Miggy Cabrera, Garrett Hampson, Arenado, Story, Trout, Blackmon, Dyson.
It sounds good too. Like you can get really low owned lineups without having to play awful players.
Right. Like I have a low owned Rocky stack plus Mike Trout. Like that's nice. Why you get that's what, because the Rockies are low, Trout can be high. What are you doing with Trout? Or what are you doing with the Angels in general? Because they are my second most owned stack.
Trout, I'm playing a lot of.
Same.
His teammates, I'm not playing a lot of. I'm not overweight on a lot of Angels not named Mike Trout. So
okay, we are different then.
Oh, you're not playing? You are playing a lot of Angels?
Yeah, I'm a little bit over on David Fletcher on DraftKings. Well, I don't know. Let me talk about it in the aggregate, I guess. I'm over on Trout, which is hard to do. I've got a bunch of Ohtani on DK, which I'm pretty happy about given his ownership. I think that's silly that he's at 9%, probably just because he's left-handed. I've got like double the field on Pujols, double the field on Rengifo. I got a lot of Max Stassi, and I just couldn't stop it from happening. Because he's 2K, it's just really difficult to make him stop coming up in an optimizer without making a manual adjustment, because you turn Max Stassi into a combination of Trout where you get two players for $3,800 each with the goal of averaging each guy averaging 11 fantasy points. It's basically like getting Justin Upton, but getting Justin Upton $500 cheaper than he actually is twice.
Yeah.
And that's tricky in an optimizer.
That makes perfect sense. I 100% get why someone would get to the Angels.
I don't want Max Stassi like I have him, by the way. Let me be clear here.
I have 5% Stassi.
I have 5 times that. Now, he doesn't kill me. He can bagel at 2K, and it's not changing anything that I'm doing. I mean, it's pretty easy to win with a 0. I don't want to say it's pretty easy. You see it a lot.
Yeah.
Sometimes it happens with a pitcher. So if Max Stassi as a catcher is 2K and gets me nothing, oh well. If that dude hits a double or something with a guy on, I'm cranking.
Cranking indeed.
Yeah. I've got my lineups in. This is fun. We've had some good talk. Despite the abbreviated pitcher talk, I think there's been some good topics brought up. Yeah.
Slack's helping us out. YouTube chat's helping us out. Where are we at? Wow, we got a lot of likes. How about that? A few more wouldn't hurt, though.
Yeah, I mean, hit that like button, everybody.
What are the other
it's
stacks?
so helpful. Oh, it's 650. Okay, cool.
So we hit on Houston. We hit on the Angels a bit.
My next 2 highest owned are Twins and Nats.
Okay, Twins was the one I was going to ask you about because I'm getting very little Twins.
Okay, I'm over the field. I got them. I'm a little bit heavier in big stacks on FanDuel, but I'm over the field on both.
I'm under on basically every twin on DK, on FanDuel.
That's smart. I have a Novus pretty good.
Right? I don't know. I don't know what to do with them. They never project like a team that's on pace to hit the most home runs in a season in Alex's projections.
Nelly Cruz back. 7% owned on DraftKings.
So that too is very scary for me, but like I just can't fit them because they're priced similarly to Houston, and Houston just grades out so much better, and it's really difficult. They're getting similar ownerships too, so like I get Polanco, great value, not even getting that much ownership right now, which is surprising on DK, but yeah, I get it if you like Minnesota.
I do. Double the field on Cruz, double digits on Crone, who's at 4%. I like that play given his ownership. By the way, we're almost at 300 likes. I think we're 37. We needed 37 more based on whatever I think Brett just said. That. So hit that like button. Let's get us to 300. That's fun. Yeah, I've got 11% in the aggregate of the Twins on DraftKings, 11 on FanDuel. Actually 10 and 10. I'm happy to be there. What about the Nats?
They weren't coming up at all before. I got to some Nats. I got to Trey Turner quite a bit, at least in double digits. I got to Rendon. I mean, I'm getting to some Nats like closer to the field, maybe a tad under, but they're not like the Twins where I just essentially don't have twin stacks. I do for sure have Nats 5-mans, 4-mans, 3-mans, all that.
Okay. Yeah, we're in the same boat there then. While I do have 23% Trevor Williams on DraftKings, I still am, double the field on Matt Adams, double the field on Soto. I've got Trey Turner. I'm very happy with my exposures right now. Too much Yan Gomes, but whatever. And then, are you getting anybody else with sort of volume?
Yes. Mckay says, "Are you going over projected ownership on Mckay on DK at 55%?" I thought we answered that earlier for him, but
yeah, I've got 52% right now.
I have 72 on DK.
I like it.
The two others, or I guess the few others, it's kind of a mishmash of Baltimore, St. Louis, and Arizona that's showing up a lot for me.
Okay, I've got some St. Louis, like twice the field.
I really liked Baltimore earlier today, and I'm still playing some
they're my biggest fade.
Baltimore is?
Mm-hmm.
I usually fade cheap teams like this, but I don't see what's not to like about the weather, the park. Lopez isn't great, and when he's out of the game, even if he goes 5 innings, you're still getting KC's bullpen, and yeah, I'm playing a lot of them.
Yeah, relative to the field, I have 8% VR on DK. He's at 18. I don't have anybody else above 2. And I have 5% VR on FanDuel. DJ Stewart at 3. Nobody else over 1. So I essentially just don't have them. They're the biggest negative gap for anybody. Them and the Rangers. So like my biggest difference between public and my ownership: Nunez, Santana, VR, Andrews, Chu, Odor, Frazier, Santander. Like, I'm not coming with that Santander nonsense that Adam brings to the table.
Santander? Well, he probably watches all of the broadcasts, so he would know, right?
Yeah. Well, he claims to be watching broadcasts and still can't say Alcantara, right? So.
Yeah. I think I'm more in your camp on that one.
Yeah.
Alcantara.
Apologies for enunciating each syllable correctly.
Yeah, this isn't English, right? It's not an English name, so if it was an American last name, then yeah. Alcantara would be.
Way to do it.
I don't know if that's English, though, so I can't really comment on that one yet.
Biggest fades for me right now: Rangers and Orioles. What are you doing with the Rangers?
Rangers, they did not show up much for me.
Okay.
So I got to like Trevino, but it's just because he's a catcher, and I'm under on like Andrews, Chu, all the good parts of the Texas stack. So I'm hoping that one stays quiet. I don't think Dylan Peters is terrible, and it's a bunch of lefties in the middle of this lineup. So I'm just hoping he can limit the damage at least to where Texas isn't the nuts, but not feeling good about this, like going well underweight on Texas here. Where are you at on them?
I mean, I don't have them. That much is for certain. I don't love not having them because I think that, I don't think that Peters is all that good, but I have 1 share of Santana, 1 share of Andrews, and then nothing else on DraftKings of the Rangers.
Wow.
Just straight 0 across the board. I'm really surprised that I don't have any Chu or Odor, but what are you going to do? And then on FanDuel, I have like 2% aggregate, very little, like 1% Santana. He's projected for 20, 2% Chu. He's 13, 3 and 16, 5 and 17 on Odor. So pretty aggressive fade of the Rangers. That one will stink if they go.
Yeah, that's one them and Minnesota are the two that I'm kind of not feeling great about. How about St. Louis against Davies?
Now that I do have.
Yeah, like that.
I have 6% on DraftKings, 6% on FanDuel. So they're basically in like 1s and 2s and 3s. I've got like 8s and 9s. So if they pop off, I've got enough bullets in the gun. And, if Davies gets bombed while 29% of my lineups are dead, I'm not super upset about that because so is the public, and I got enough of everybody else.
Exactly.
Obviously my Cardinals stacks are not going to have Davies in those lineups. So
the Cardinals stacks, even though I don't weigh too much leverage, the Cardinals like 3 and 4 mans were really showing up well. They pair pretty nicely, at least on DraftKings, with Houston if you don't spend all your money on pitching. So,
I actually have 9 5-mans of the Cards.
Yeah,
3 4-mans, 2 2-mans. I got a lot more on FanDuel of like a better spread. Let's see, who do I have in my Cardinals 5-mans? What's coming along with them?
What are you doing? Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm just like looking shit up.
What are you doing with Cincinnati on FanDuel with all these cheap guys and then Suarez and Aquino?
I'm neutral to the field, but I have more Reds one-offs on FanDuel than I have any other team other than the Astros.
Yeah, the Reds are not making me happy. I'm seeing a ton of Reds. I just hate playing the super cheap chalk team that everyone's going to be on. That's overowned. I'm assuming they're overowned. Actually, not even bad on FanDuel. It's just, let's see. I guess they don't. I guess as a whole, they're not that great of value because you got $4,500 Aquino. You're not playing him over Trout or a bunch. He's just not in that tier. So if you play one different guy, you're going to be okay on FanDuel for the Reds. Suarez is priced up just a bit, and the rest of the hitters aren't great. So I guess that's why they're not crazy chalk. I thought they were way chalkier when I looked earlier.
I've got one So I've got all my Cardinals 5-mans up. I've got a 3-man red stack with them, 2 Angels, an Astros, a Brewers, and then I get into like a 2-man Astros, and then it's all just a bunch of like 5 blanks. But I'm cool with that. Who's the pitchers that I have? A lot of Mckay. Well, it's just some rotated group of Bauer, Mckay, and Williams, basically. A couple Zack Gallants peeking their head in. I'm actually sort of pumped for today's slate, but at the same time, I'm so heavily invested in the Astros and the Angels that if they don't go well, I can just turn shit off.
Houston came up in the aggregate ownership. The Nats have gotten up there on the most undervalued teams. They're the most undervalued team right now on the top stack tool.
The Nats?
The Nats.
Good.
Not Houston.
I have twice the field of the Nats right now.
I mean, I've got Nats stack, so I'll be okay if they do well. But man, actually I've got some Nats stacks, and like I put 50 lineups in the $10 again.
Nice.
And it hasn't been working out well for me. It's not actually nice, but I appreciate the positivity. But I am going to get to a bunch of Nats in the $50 or in the 50 entries there. So I just take whatever my top 50 are. Looks like I got a pretty good spread of teams. Obviously, a ton of Houston, a lot of St. Louis, Arizona. But another thing I was looking at today in lineup study was how many different combos of teams, like how many Houston St. Louis combos is like too many for a night like tonight?
Right. I don't know the answer to that.
I don't either. And I want to figure out a way to limit that, because I was looking at what Alex does, as I do for most things in MLB DFS. And I saw he only had like up to 6 of the same, or like around 6. Obviously it differs from slate to slate, but yesterday when the Red Sox were mega chalk, he had like 6 Red Sox Cardinals duos of 5 threes and stuff. So even like his top teams, it's not like he's having 15 different combos.
No, and that's part of the reason that I started looking into setting the team stat caps to get all of those to force combinations to happen. So like since we know I have a ton of Astros, I'm grabbing the Astros and I'm going to grab every 5-3 that I have of the Astros and see like what that spread is. Mm-hmm. I don't have a ton of 5-3 or 5-2, I guess. But a couple Angels. So 3 5-3 Astros Angels. I got a 5-2 as well. But I've got 1 Pirates. I've got 2 Orioles. I've got a couple Twins, a Royals, a Rockies. So I am spreading it out for having the Astros with another stack. I've got like 7 or 8 versions of that.
Yeah, and that's exactly I think what you should do. Like to a point, like you don't even have to have one with every team. If a team doesn't project well, no need to force their way in. But I want to get a better spread of stuff.
Yep.
When I'm going super heavy on a stack, I want to have a lot of different outs if the stack does indeed go off, rather than put all my eggs in one combo basket.
3 minutes until lock, so get your stuff in, everybody.
Indeed. All right, Nats. Let's see.
Is this real? Do I really not have a single Astros 4-man? How is that possible?
That seems off. All right, so I just got an ownership update just now. So I put that in.
We got an ownership update right now?
Just now. Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
I got time for it, so.
I have time for it. I don't want to. Any major changes that you can see? I mean, do your lineups before you just answer questions for me. I guess I can just look at it.
No, I got a little bit less Nationals than I wanted. I saw like Trey Turner went down a couple %, but so they got squeezed out. Maybe they came up just a bit. I didn't look at exactly what was happening in it though.
I don't want to scramble. It's been too smooth of a show.
It has been a pretty smooth show. Bad pitching at all.
So tomorrow, we'll lay it all out here for everybody that's still here. Jake, you get your lineups in. Strategy show in the morning, me and you.
It is.
So no Lofty tomorrow. So for anybody that wants to get some of their day back. It won't be Laffy and I. It'll just be me and Jake. We will have Ben and Tim up at 2:30 tomorrow talking the final event of the PGA season. And you're really going to want to tune in for this because they're doing some weird stuff for the final tournament. So I don't even want to start talking about it because I'll probably screw it up, but it's not just normal scoring. So there is that. Deeper dive tomorrow will be myself, Adam, and Alex, and then Chris Squared coming up on Live Before Lock. Chris Baggs, Chris Randone, dueling Chris's for Live Before Lock tomorrow. Gonna be
dueling.
Fun. And
they're more like teaming up, you know.
Yeah, the tag team, the Chris's. I don't have the Chris I don't have a good name here. We'll think of it. We'll think of something. And moving forward, Monday to Friday, we are going to have every show on the same link, Deeper Dive and Live Before Lock. So 2 straight hours all the time. You don't have to find any other links.
Yeah, you guys have brought it today. The crowd really brought it today. So I think we broke a record for likes. Yeah, this was a pretty good show. Hopefully you guys learned some stuff about Fantasy Cruncher as well, because I was like bouncing ideas off Josh because he is the FC master.
I don't know about that.
Well, a lot of other people think you are.
Well, then I'm perpetrating a great lie.
Yeah, that's what we do, right?
Yeah, well, I'm trying. Man, my 3 most owned teams all start at 8 o'clock, so unless the Nats go crazy, I don't want home run alerts until 8 o'clock. Seattle Stack free money, says Jason Yeager. Apparently that is Chris Randone's burner.
Might be. I'm playing.
I don't have a single Mariner in either site. They're the only team I don't have. Not a single share, either side.
I don't think I have them either.
I have one-off white sock. I'm not entirely sure who that is. I have one white sock. I don't even have white socks.
Yeah, I don't have White Sox. I don't have. Yeah,
I have one Tim Anderson share out of 300 lineups.
1 share of Abreu for this guy.
Okay. Alrighty, we are locked. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to Fantasy Draft. If you want to play $1,000 of rake-free contests in your first 7 days, go to fantasydraft.com. Use the promo code AWESOMO. Hit the like button. Live Before Lock is the promo code to get 50% off an Awesemo Plus subscription. Go check out the pinned tweet at Awesemo_com. It ends today. And if you don't get there by midnight, you lose your chance at a free month, or potentially you lose your chance at a 30-minute coaching session with the boss. Jake, anything else?
Good luck tonight, guys. Go Astros.
Go Astros. Go Angels, too, but Astros in particular. We'll talk to you later.